the Secretary's name.
With respect, I don't think that's what they were taking issue with. I don't think they're taking issue with the United States has actually done an awful lot to try and help the humanitarian situation on the ground. I think what they were taking issue with is that there's no action going on to back up that act, the humanitarian help, plus Secretary Kerry's insistence that there has to be some kind of, there can't be a military solution, there has to be a political solution. That goes back to what I was saying earlier, that despite all the words and despite all the work you've been doing behind the scenes, 31 months on, we've got 150,000 people who are dead in Syria, millions of refugees, things like polio happening, and there is nothing happening from the United States that is pushing towards any kind of solution, or seems to be pushing towards any solution. Perhaps it's all happening behind the scenes, we don't know about it. But the reality is, Assad is still in power, even though his days were supposed to be numbered 2 years ago. And there is no movement for any kind of negotiations on the ground.
I would dispute completely what you just said, because 6 weeks ago, no one thought that there would be we would be moving towards the elimination of chemical weapons. We've seen steps that have been announced. We're still evaluating the report. Obviously, more work needs to be done, but we're much farther than we thought we could be. 6 weeks ago, we never thought we would be moving toward a Geneva conference. We're still targeting for November. Brahimi is traveling around the region, meeting with people, meeting with countries who have a stake in that effort. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, we're talking to the opposition. Yes, the Russians are working on the regime. But we are moving towards a conference. And the third piece on the humanitarian access, there was a statement which is not the same, no one is saying, as a binding resolution in the UN, but there was a statement that was signed off on humanitarian access, the need to raise the issue, following the OPCW UNSCR step. That's a small step forward. Raising this issue, continuing to provide aid, publicly pressing on the need to provide access is part of our effort to make progress. But yes, there's challenges on the ground, but that's why we're continuing to press on it.
The problem is that you can't, what Joe said in the run-up to her question is not, you can't dispute that. Those are all facts. You can dispute what may be the premise of the question, that somehow all of this is the fault of the United States,
that we're not making progress.
The United States for not acting.
We're not making progress on the different categories.
But it is a fact that the situation on the ground has gotten worse, not better. Is that not correct? Whether or not it's your fault, and it may very well be unfair to blame everything that goes wrong in the world on the United States, but the basic fact, the premise, the basic facts behind the question, I'm not sure that you can dispute them.
Well, we're combining a lot of things here. One was an editorial in a newspaper that we spoke to. Two was progress we're making towards all of these goals, which I just laid out, and we feel we are taking steps. Yes, is the situation on the ground dire in terms of humanitarian access and issues? Absolutely. That's why we're talking about it. So I wouldn't dispute that, but I'm just laying out the steps we're attempting to take.
But the situation on the ground remains dire because there is no progress in ending the war.
And we're working towards making progress by working towards a Geneva conference, by eliminating chemical weapons and taking steps on that front, by raising the issue of humanitarian access and putting public pressure on. Those are the steps we're taking.
Sorry, but when you talk about working towards progress,